Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 21 formation vid where today we're going to be taking a look at the 4-3-3-4. Now this was one of my favorite formations last year in FIFA 20, so I haven't really tried it out a whole bunch up until now, so I'm hoping this is going to be as good as it was last year because this was a super fun formation last year. So we're going to be diving into the tactics and instructions, and to begin with, it is just a great formation attackingly. It looks like a fantastic formation. Obviously, you've got that three up front, the two in midfield, the attacking midfielder, and the solid back four. So what's really key about this formation, I think, is the two flat midfielders, Nainggolan and Savic, those two central midfielders. They are going to be the most important players in this position because they are the ones that are going to dictate whether this formation is really attacking or really defensive. The instructions you set on these guys is going to really dictate how this formation plays, because the rest of the formation is pretty simple to deal with, but those two midfielders, those two pivot midfielders, are really going to dictate how this formation plays. But without further ado, going into the tactics. Now, we went on press on possession loss. This is really effective in pretty much any formation. This really depends on how you like to play. Do you like to play on the front foot? Do you like to play a little bit more defensive? For me, I like to play on the front foot on the press on possession loss. I think it works extremely well in a 4-3-3. I think you're able to get lots of bodies forward. It's a great formation to press in. You're very good at man marking, and it kind of covers a lot of formations. It's very strong at covering a lot of the narrow formations as well, because it kind of limits that out ball that sometimes you can have in wider formations. So it's a great formation to press in. If you do like it a little bit more defensive, then you can just go on balanced. If you're somebody who can manually press very well yourself, then balanced is a great option. It's something that's very good for you to be able to do. Width wise, like I said, with defensive, one reason why I've gone slightly wider on the defensive width, one thing that occurs to me all the time, especially playing FUT Champs this weekend so far, I'm 15-1, so I've had a good start again this weekend. But the amount of like Adama Traore's and Saint Maximans, Lucas Moura's, Son, players like that, the way that a lot of people like to play in this game is just whack it down the wing. So playing on a press obviously can harm you, but when you get up to the top level of FIFA, not only do people have those types of players, they also have the ability to utilize that space. So I've gone for a slightly wider defensive width that should be able to cover those balls down the wing a little bit better, but it is going to leave you a little bit more open in midfield, which is why those two central midfielders are so important. Depth-wise, standard, as always, like to keep it on the 5. I don't like to go too low, too high. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then the last real important note is the long ball. The long ball is something that works with so many good formations, but the 4-3-3, it works really well for. It just works well with any formation, really. If you've got pace in the attacking positions, long ball is the way to go. And I just find that for me, it's the best way to play. I don't like playing fast build-up personally. I try and avoid playing fast build-up if I can, because I just think it creates a very open-ended game. And I think this FIFA is a very open-ended FIFA. It's very much a you attack, I attack FIFA anyway. So I think fast build-up, especially against better players, that's just going to be a bit of a no-go for me. And then the rest of them sort of balanced, and possession for me is a little bit just too slow, and it just doesn't really suit my style of play. So long ball works perfectly. And then the next real thing is the width. We've gone for about 6 on the width. I like to balance the defensive and offensive width, so your team isn't kind of going narrow 1 minute and then wider the next. So I think it just is the best way to play. And then players in the box keep on standard. The instructions will take care of that. And then corners and free kicks we keep back at 1, because we do want to limit the amount of counter attacks. I still think even when you have these guys at this setting at number 1, I still find that you do kind of tend to concede counter-attacks anyway. You don't seem to really have that many players actually back in their normal formation, in their normal positions anyway. So I don't think it's a massive difference from 3, but I would keep it on 1 anyway. Just a quick thing, if you are enjoying the video, make sure you do let me know in the comment section if there are any other videos that you would like us to cover and what you think of this formation so far. If you've used it, do let us know in the comment section, and make sure you do hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying the content. Dropping a thumbs up also gives us a massive help as well, so make sure you do that while you're down there subscribing. So moving into the instructions, I already mentioned before, when you play on a press, how that can really affect you. This is something that I change on the fly depending on what my FUT Champs record is. So when I start a weekend league, in any fullback formation, I like to start with my fullbacks on balance. I think when you're playing lesser quality opponents, you don't need as many players back. You can afford to have a few more players going forward. So I have these guys on balance, and as I mentioned, players of lower quality can't exploit the space that these guys will leave being on balance, as well as better players. So at the start of my weekend league, you know, when I'm on games sort of 6, 7, 8, and I'm sort of 6, 7, 8, and 0, whatever it may be, I have these guys on balance. But right now, as I mentioned, I'm 15-1. I'm at a really good form, so I'm going to be playing against the top level of players in FIFA. And not only are they going to have like incredibly good players to be able to exploit that space, they are good players themselves. So I then like to switch these back to stay back while attacking. So I think it really depends on the situation. It also depends on just how you like to play, but that is kind of a breakdown as how I use my fullbacks, just really in every formation. We'll mention it in all formation videos going forwards, so you guys will be up to date with that as we go. Now moving on to those two midfielders. Now these guys are super important. How you set these guys up. Now the way I've been using it, I've been having one of them on stay back while attacking, and then the other has been on balance. They've both been on stay on edge of the box and covering the center of the pitch. The reason why I don't have like both of them on balance is because I just think that makes it far too attacking. You know, these guys do get into great attacking positions, and it just leaves it very open for counter attacks from what I experienced. But when you go on stay back while attacking, especially if you've got the fullbacks on stay back while attacking, there's a little bit of a disconnect. Not only does it become a little bit, defensive, but there's also a little bit of a disconnect between the midfielders, because you have the two guys staying back, the fullbacks are staying back, and then you have the four up top. There's just kind of that area in the pitch of about 20-25 yards where it's very difficult to link up from your midfielders to your kind of attacking players, because there's such a big gap because you've told them to stay back while attacking. So I have one on each, just so then one guy is there to kind of cover the counter attacks and whatnot, and then one guy is able to get forwards and help kind of with the attack and help link up the play. So I just think that is a very good balance that you need. And again, it depends on how you're experiencing this formation for yourself. You can then make it more attacking and more defensive. So it's very customizable dependent on your experience going forwards. So then moving into the central cam, as you guys like to know, whenever I have a central cam and he's on his own, he's got to be on free roam. I actually rhymed, which is quite weird, but that is how I like to play with my central cam. I like them on free roam. I just find it's just such a game-changing instruction in my opinion. You know, when you have them on sort of stick to position or drift wide, it just doesn't really work. So I like to have these guys on free roam. Works exceptionally well. It's never really failed me, and it works with so many good positions. The other thing to note is we have supports on crosses. We have them on balance. This is because if you have these guys on get into the box, not only will they then ignore what your tactic has set, which was on 5, so it's kind of very balanced. And that's kind of how you want to play to your support crosses. And if you're telling them to get into the box, again, that's going to mean that you're just going to have so many players crowding the box, which is great if you end up scoring, but a bad thing because it means you can easily get countered. So I do like to keep my my cams, my midfielders, when I can, on balanced. You know, obviously with Milinkovic, Savic, who's staying back while attacking. Those guys, those two midfielders there are both on stay back, you know, and don't get into the box. But everyone else I like to keep on balanced. Two wide players, as we already covered, the balanced crossing runs. The thing to note here is the cut inside. This is how you get the guys involved in the play. We like to have these guys on cut inside. It means they're going to drift in, they're going to link up with the midfielders. If you are someone who is still struggling to get these guys involved, another thing to then do is to narrow your offensive width. So if you're playing with your offensive width like we are on around about 6, if you're still struggling to get these guys involved, then you can knock it down to about 4. That means your starting formation is going to be slightly narrower, so those guys are just naturally going to be a bit narrower in the pitch. And then using the cutting side, it's going to make it very easy for them to make those cutting runs and into dangerous positions. So that's another way to get those guys involved if you are struggling to do so. And then Immobile up top, I have on stay central. Again, we already have the width. Whenever you have wingers on the outside, you never need your striker to kind of be on balanced width or anything like that. The only time you have your striker on balanced width is if you're playing a narrow formation that doesn't have any width, like a 4-1-2-1-2 or something. But if you're playing with width, just have them on stay central. And the attacking runs we've kept on mixed because we have the long ball tactic, so we don't need to set this guy to cut in behind. So it just means he's going to mix his play up. He's still going to make those runs in behind, you know, because of the tactic. but he's still going to kind of hold up the play when he needs to. And then people are going to be able to work off him, and just it's going to make the attack a little bit more unpredictable, because that is key to success in FIFA 21. But that is it for this 4-3-3-4 formation, guide. This is a great attacking formation. No, being brutally honest, I don't think it's as good as it was last year, but I still think it is a very good option. It's a very good option if you're someone who's maybe you need a formation that maybe can help you get back into a game. This is still a great formation to do so, but I don't believe it's as good as it was last year. I like this formation a lot more last year. I still think it is a very good formation. Now, if I was offered this in draft, for example, I would absolutely take it and use it, but it's not a formation that I personally would use. I do think, for example, the 4-2-2, I prefer that formation to this one, but I would still give this formation a solid sort of 8 out of 10. So absolutely would I not tell you not to use it. I definitely think it's something you can go out and try. And if you are trying it, let me know in the comment section how it's working for you. Let me know how these tactics and instructions are going. If you do enjoy the content, make sure you drop a thumbs up and make sure you hit that subscribe button as well while you are down there. But that is all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.